And welcome back to the show. We're back with Pat Buchanan. And Mr. Buchanan, thanks for sticking around. We appreciate it.
Is he there?
Well, we appear to have
Do
lost
we still have him?
Mr. Buchanan. No big deal. Jonathan, want to
It is a big deal.
get you in here, obviously. Well, not for us. Oh, he's there. Okay.
Oh, there.
So anyway, Pat, thanks for sticking around. So Dr. Ben Carson said he would not support a Muslim for president, and Hillary Clinton attacked him over those comments, as well as some of his GOP rivals. And you look at a Gallup poll, right, and it reports that 6 in 10 Americans would support a Muslim president. Yet, according to the Center for Security Policy poll conducted by the polling company of Muslim Americans, we find that it's something like 51%. Yeah, there it is. Sharia law should be a choice. 29% say violence is acceptable against those who insult Muhammad. So wanted to get your thoughts on the controversy, obviously, that was stirred by Ben Carson during his Meet the Press appearance this week. And if you agree with him, or if you think that this is more of a constitutional issue, and obviously there is no religious test when it comes to that.
Well, there is no religious test for the presidency of the United States, but basically I agree with what Dr. Carson was trying to say or said. If you are an Orthodox Muslim and you believe in Sharia law and you believe in the primacy of the Islamic faith in your country, as is true in virtually every Islamic country in the world, there are about 4 dozen of them. You take Saudi Arabia and Iran, the most Orthodox, if you will, of Shia and Sunni. Those are utterly incompatible with a constitutional and democratic republic like the United States. And Dr. Carson, as I understand it, is saying, if you believe in that sort of strict Islamic faith, you don't belong in the presidency of the United States.
Mr. Buchanan, this is Jonathan Gillum, and it's an honor to be on with you. And I just want to ask you this pointed question about socialism. I think you're the perfect person to answer this because you've been in and around government for so long. Socialism has seemed to have crept into all these world leadership positions: Germany, Great Britain, France, Australia, and even our own country under Barack Obama. Now it seems to have creeped its way into the Catholic leadership. I mean, did you see this coming, and how do you think that we could ever go back from this to the point where we can get conservative values integrated back into mainstream thinking and leadership?
You're going to have a very difficult time. The reason is, I think there's certainly in Europe, you've got socialist governments and democratic socialist and social democracies all through Europe. You've got enormous amounts of the government, for example, I think controls 57% of the economy in France, or did, and it's up around 35 to 40 in most countries, even in the United States if you take all governments. And so really their socialism has crept in basically into the state policies of most of the Western countries to one degree or another. There's really no, I mean, the Calvin Coolidge had 3% of the federal government controlled 3% of the economy. We're never going back there. But I will say this, with regard to the Holy Father, he comes out of a tradition very close to the liberation theology in Latin America. He's a fellow traveler of that, I believe. His politics and his economics come out of Argentina, Peronistas, and the socialist governments they have had down there. And that's what they prefer, and there's no question about it. It is incompatible with and inconsistent with the traditional conservative philosophy of the American nation.
Pat, it's Rick Unger. I want to go back to what you were saying about the inability of somebody who is traditionally Muslim to be president. How is that different than a Governor Mike Huckabee who goes out and makes the statement that if you're a Christian, the supreme being takes precedence over the Supreme Court, even though our Constitution arranges the judiciary to rule on the Constitution? He's saying, in fact, he advised the states to set it aside because the supreme being takes precedence. Is he qualified to be president?
Well, I think you're talking here about basically, take a look at what Martin Luther King said from a Birmingham jail. He quoted Thomas Aquinas, and he said, an unjust law is no law. Now, the people who sat in at the lunch counters, the people who defied court orders for marches, and all of these, they broke the law repeatedly again and again because they said the law is an unjust and immoral law. I mean, let's go back to the Bibles. If you were told the firstborn every child had to be sacrificed to the state, we all know the thing to do would be to defy that law. So there is a natural law. There is and Mike Huckabee would say it's God's law, that is higher than positive law. And when an individual confronts a positive law, for example, my father was a devout Catholic, if you told him he had to give abortion or abortifacients and contraceptives to his employees, he would have broken the law.
Pat, I hear what you're saying, I really do, but it seems to me it's kind of picking and choosing. You don't like it if Muslim law were to be considered by a Muslim candidate for president, but you're fine when it's Christian law, when it is at odds with the law of the Constitution.
Well, I don't know that we disagree. What I would do with regard to this, I think the proper thing is, I think that woman did the right thing. She defied the law and went to jail and paid the price. That's the price of civil disobedience of an unjust law. But I do believe this. I mean, when I was in the Nixon White House, I urged the president to defy court orders mandating court-ordered busing from counties into cities which were tearing apart cities and towns, defy the court and work with the Congress of the United States to really circumscribe the jurisdiction of the court under Article 2, Section, or under Article 3, Section 2 of the Constitution. In other words, there would be a constitutional confrontation. You're exactly right. I don't disagree with that if you believe your position is correct. I mean, Thomas Jefferson came into office and said, everybody convicted on the Alien and Sedition Act is released from prison. There'll be no more prosecutions.
Pat, we got to wrap you up. We're out of time.
Supreme Court justices.
We're out of time, Pat.
Yeah, Pat, thanks so much for joining us tonight. Sorry we had to wrap you so quickly. More Daily Wrap in just a moment. Take care.